All right. Very good morning, very good evening, everyone. It's a good time to start. We already passed 5 minutes. Hope my voice, you guys can hear me. If not, then please do comment or yes, no. Am I audible? Anyone can confirm? Okay. Thanks, thanks for confirmation. Right. Uh, let's get started then. Today and tomorrow are going to be two demo classes. These are like public link. Anyone can join and participate on the discussion, ask any questions, queries. And also at the moment, you are all allowed to unmute yourself and ask any questions or queries while I'm, explaining any of those topics or any of those sessions, whatever planned for today and tomorrow. You are feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions, queries. If you are unable to talk uh, due to some reason, you can always use this chat window. You can post your questions or queries. Uh, I'll be, able to answer your question. Right. So with that, what I'm going to cover today, I'll start with the introduction about myself. I'm your instructor for this particular course, and followed by the course curriculum, and followed by the course duration and fee structure, and followed by your the Google Drive access once you register for the course, and what are the drives, how you're going to access the recordings, and the regular class query discussion will be happening through WhatsApp group. We're going to talk about that, and what are the prerequisites for this particular course, and some of the important topics as part of this demo session today and tomorrow. We're going to cover about architecture part and rack basic understanding and other things, right? That's a agenda for today and tomorrow, next 2 days, right? So let's come back to uh, introduction about me. I'm your instructor. As you all aware that uh, it's been quite a few long time I'm working on this IT industry. It's been almost 15 years I'm working in this IT industry with the various sectors, starting with the banking sector, finance and insurance and e-commerce. I worked with various organizations. I started my career after my graduation with iGate Global Solution, followed by I worked for Oracle India Private Limited and EXA group of companies, and then followed by Wipro, and then currently I'm working for Rubrik. So with all this 15 years, I worked for around 5 to 6 companies, and I worked for various sectors like insurance, finance, and e-commerce, and so many things, right? And then over these 15 years, and if somebody asked what is my primary skills, Oracle is my primary skills because being a Oracle DBA, I purely worked entire these 15 years dedicatedly for Oracle products. Started with my career as a junior Oracle DBA, started with followed by senior Oracle DBA, SME, and infrastructure lead, and followed by Exadata DMA. So with these 15 years, I worked various Oracle products like um, normal RDBMS and RAC expert, data guard expert, golden gate expert, and all the Oracle engineering systems. So engineering system, you might be aware that your Exadata or Oracle supercluster, Oracle Exalogic, these are like your engineering systems. So it's all bundled together, your networking, storage, your compute nodes and hardware, everything will be bundled together. Oracle is going to shift you. So that is all the engineering systems. Your GFS, JDLRA, ODA, all are like, these are like engineering systems. I worked on all those engineering systems, and also I worked application part. These are like core database functional parts like database, RAC expert, Golden Gate expert, and Oracle engineering system like Exadata, Supercluster, Solarize, ODA, and JDLRA. These are like your engineering system and core Oracle component. And on top of that, I also worked for the application side, right? So anyone interested in application part of the things, because as a DBA we don't get often work at application side, but if you get a chance to work on the front end application side, that will be good. Like, it'll easy to learn and you can easy to understand, because you already know the back end structure of database, how it works. But when you get a chance to work on front end side, so you will be able to understand close connection between your application side and database side, how the communication works. So with that, I worked at the application front end side like Oracle EBS, Oracle PeopleSoft, and Oracle Soha, so and WebLogic. So these are like front end, or again, these are Oracle products. So I worked on as an admin part of the role on this front end, and that made me to more in-depth understanding between the correlation of your application structure and the back-end database structure. Right. So these are my core of functional fundamental strengths where I work purely on this 15 years of my IT career on all the Oracle products. On top of that, I have not stopped myself, and I expanded my skills and I learned most of the cloud technologies. I worked on Oracle OCI as a primary skills. Along with that, I also learned and worked for a few years about Oracle uh, OCI Cloud. Along with that, I work for AWS, and sometimes I work for Azure. So I did not get a chance to work on Google Cloud, but again, once you learn one cloud technologies, it's easy to adopt other cloud technologies. So that is my other uh, core strengths in my Oracle field. So in overall, I dedicatedly work for all the Oracle products because Oracle being my primary skill set. So I don't want to stop myself. I learned all of these. And then most commonly, many people will ask, so if I stick to Oracle product, or do I get a chance to work on any other technologies or any other products? So it is all left to individual interest. If you're interested, nobody can stop you. You can learn anything. So having said that, myself, I learned all these Oracle products and technologies. Along with that, I also learned other secondary database skills. Like, I worked for IBM DB2, SAP HANA. SAP HANA is provided by SAP systems, and DB2 is again provided by IBM. And also worked for MS SQLs, again provided by Microsoft, and MySQL, PostgreSQL, and MongoDB. So these are my secondary database skills. I worked on these database as well, but not as much as Oracle. So here and then, whenever there's a need of a project and new enhancement or new project implementation, so these are the new skills I acquired and then worked for a few of the projects or a few of the customers. And then on top of that, again, one of the common questions the many people will ask, so is that good idea to learn DevOps skills as a DBA? Again, there is no hard and fast rule you have to learn or you are not supposed to learn. It is all left to your interest. If you are interested or willing to learn and willing to adopt those technologies into your day-to-day activities as a DBA, go ahead and learn them. So having said that, I also explored more on this DevOps technologies. I learned uh, these Kubernetes, Jenkins, Chef cookbooks, and Terraform. And then I use these technologies to do my DBA task automation. For example, you can do your patching activities by using Ansible or by using a Terraform script, and you can automate your patching exercise, or your day-to-day monitoring activities. You can use your uh, Ansible or Terraform, or you can use your uh, scripting knowledge like shell scripting or Python scripting. Make use of those scripting, learn them, and then use it for your day-to-day activities, like to make it automate. So these are my, again, the secondary skills. Being a DevOps is one of the good technologies. There'll be a lot of tools, a lot of scripting knowledge you have to learn, and then once you learn, you can adopt those scripting knowledge or adopt those technologies into your DBA field to make some automation or make your day-to-day activities more easy. So that is my, again, secondary skills. So that is overall my these 15 years of IT journey, which helped for me to adopt many database skills and many technologies and back-end database technologies and front-end application technologies, followed by cloud technologies, and along with that, the DevOps technologies. So I was like keep on, enhancing my skills, and I'm keep on adapting my skills, and I'm keep myself up to date to the latest technologies, whatever coming, so that you know you will not be able to, get you will not be able to get into that particular fear concept, right? Like fear mind. What happens if I don't learn this one? What happens if I change my job? What happens if I go to the new company? So those all questions will be automatically answered if you keep yourself updated and if you keep learning the new technologies, because you will be always on top of the market and you'll be always on top of the technologies. So once you start enhancing your skills, so automatically you will not be able to get into that particular fear mind concept. So you'll be always confident enough and you can approach for any new project, and you can take any new opportunities, and you can take any new project within the organization or outside the organization, and then you can easily handle any situation or any kind of project once you keep updated yourself. Right, that's about me, and then I'm your instructor. I'll be teaching this entire particular course, right? Right, any questions so far, or anything you want to ask or interrupt me while I'm explaining? Feel free to unmute and then post your questions or queries. I'm happy to take on that. Right. So going forward, that is about me. And then next point is about the course curriculum, because we are all here to learn this RAC course and enhance our skills, right? So understanding of the course curriculum and the course structure, the outline of this particular course is very important, right? So since this is being a paid course, and before you make registration, make a payment for this particular course, it is a duty of you to, it's your job to understand the course curriculum, whether that course is meeting your expectation, and if it is not meeting, any particular topic is not covered over there, and you can always feel free to give me suggestions. I'm gonna improve my course content, course curriculum, maybe over a period of time, maybe for the next batch. I'll be keep on changing my course curriculum. But having said that, this particular course curriculum, whatever I listed over here, this course curriculum is purely uh, formed or created by me based upon my overall experience. So this 15 years of experience, whichever customer I work, based upon that feedback, based upon those day-to-day activities, I personally formed this particular course. This course pretty much covers everything as a RAC DBA, RAC expert, whatever needed for any client to handle them, to work for them as a RAC expert on day-to-day basis. This course is pretty much covers everything. And if you go to any any vendor or any institute or even Oracle University and then compare the course curriculum, this course curriculum pretty much covers everything more than what they're going to cover, because I know as a RAC DBA what is needed to support any customer. Right. With that, if I can just brief about this entire course curriculum, and you will feel that if you already gone through this course curriculum, you should be already aware that okay, this is more than what regular RAC curriculum provided by the other institute or even Oracle University, right? Right. So this course curriculum start with the introduction on the clusterware concept. So we'll go in deep about the clusterware, RAC architecture, RAC networking, and how it works, and what's the difference between my standalone database versus RAC database, and what are the important factors which makes my database as a RAC database. And then clusterware architecture. So how Oracle is going to form this RAC cluster, 2-node RAC cluster, 3-node, 4-node, 5-node, on what basis? What are the important core services, core daemons on fundamental architecture to make this RAC or the clusterware architecture? So you have a lot of things over there. You have local registry, OLR, and cluster registry, OCR, and you have voting disk, and you have a lot of cluster daemons, and you have a lot of cluster services, which all bundle together with multiple IPs, public IPs and private IPs, node VIPs, bundled together, which will help you to form your clusterware. On top of the clusterware, you can install your RAC databases. And that's a core fundamental architecture where we will be covering in depth of how this RAC or the 2 node or 4 node RAC cluster will be formed. And that is the basic architecture understanding we'll be covering, and followed by we'll start with the installation. The chapter number 3, 4, 5, 6 will be of a pure installation type. So you will be setting up with your own lab Linux servers. So we'll install the Linux machines and we'll set up the Linux servers, the users, groups, and all the prerequisites for my Linux server to do a 2 node rack installation. And once you install your VMs, we'll be setting up of the network. As I said, in order to form your rack clusterware, you should be dealing with multiple IPs. Your public IPs, private IPs, node IPs, VIPs. Again, these names look so complicated, right? If I say public IP, private IP, VIP, and scan IP, and public network and private network, so looks like so new technologies are new terms. But once you go in depth understanding of these networking and concept, that will be very simple to understand. So I'll be explaining it with the example and with a diagram so that you will not be able to get into that confusion. Like easily you can answer these questions. These are like commonly asked questions in the interview. What is scan IPs? What is VIPs? What is public IPs? What is private IPs? So once you go through that networking understanding, you'll be able to answer all these questions. So we'll set up those 2 servers in this chapter number 3 and 4. We'll install the brand new Linux server, and then on top of that, we'll be setting up of these networks, because without this network setup, you'll not be able to further install with your rack. And then we will install a clusterware. That's your ASM, the grid infrastructure, or the clusterware, or your GI home or the ASM home. We have many terminologies. Many people will call it as a clusterware installation. Many people will call it as a GI installation, grid infrastructure installation. And many people will call it as a ASM home installation or clusterware installation. All are one and same. We'll we'll explain more on that, why it is all same, because there's a over a history earlier in prior to 10G and all, we used to install clusterware software installation, and your grid or ASM or installation separate software, and Oracle has combined all of them together, formed it as a GI, grid infrastructure. So we'll discuss more on that, and we'll install that grid infrastructure. That's your ASM node 1 and node 2. We'll install the ASM, and followed by we install the Oracle software. Again, Oracle software, many people will call it as the DB software or Oracle software or Oracle Home or your rack installation. All are one and same. So these are your database software. Here we're going to install the grid software, and here we're going to install the DB software, and followed by we'll be creating multiple disk groups, a data and reco. That is just example I'm giving here. You can give whatever name you feel. So we'll install our disk groups. And once we install the disk group, we'll start with the database creation, 2 node database creation. And those databases are going to reside under my data and record disk groups. Right. So this is chapter number 8, where we'll deal with this chapter number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or a basic uh, understanding of networking, Linux installation, followed by grid and clusterware installation, followed by the RAC software or Oracle software or database home installation, and followed by your disk group creation. We will cover disk group creation using a GUI mode, using ASMCA, ASM Configuration Assistant, and followed by we'll be installing the database. We'll be creating the database. So that is your complete installation. Once you understand this chapter number 4 to 8 in depth, so you will be able to install this 2-node rack setup in any of the client environment. So here we'll be using all the virtualization setup, but I'll be explaining bit about if it's not a virtualization, if it's a raw disk, if it is a blob disk directly coming from the storage. So you no need to do certain things. I'm going to cover that during the explanation of this installation. So when you have a raw disk, you no need to convert it as a ASM disk. So directly you can go ahead and then install your grid setup. But since we're using a virtualization, we have to use something called Oracle ASM libraries, and we need to format the disk and we need to make it as a ASM disk, and then we can do a setup. So that comparison I'm gonna provide once we start with installation. Right. So that is a complete the installation part as part of this course. And chapter number 9 is about your ASM. Once we do a setup, we'll start with the ASM architecture, because entire this rack or your rack database will be stored or will be created under your ASM storage. ASM basically provides a two. There's many advantages, but what is ASM? Again, commonly asked question: what is ASM or ASM instance? ASM will basically serves two purposes. One is your storage. ASM stands for automatic storage management. So whatever we created here, data and record, these are the disk groups. That is the basically storage for your database. So ASM will basically provide the two major functionalities. One is your space or the storage for your database. You're going to keep your database data files, control files, redo log files, everything under your ASM storage. And also ASM will act as a mediator for your database instance to access those files which are stored under your ASM disk groups. So that is the two major tasks. One, ASM act as a mediator, and other one, ASM will provide the storage of flexibility or so storage of type to your database instance. So that is the main task. But along with that, there are so many advantages of your ASM, like mirroring, striping, and redundancies, and the fault tolerance or disk failures, and your ACFS, ASM cluster file system, and your volume groups. So many other features or advantages also will be added to your ASM. The first fundamental need of ASM is to act as a mediator for your database to store the data files inside your ASM disk group, and ASM will provide you storage capability for your database to store any of the data files, control files, redo log files, archive log files, anything inside the storage. So that is main functionalities. So we'll start with the understanding of those storage uh, component and ASM architecture and ASM instance administration. And also we'll talk about your disk groups. Whatever the data and record we created, on top of that, we will create further more disk group A, B, C, D with mirroring, high redundancy, normal redundancy, and external redundancies, and then how you can add a disk, drop a disk, create this disk group with a different redundancies. So that is your ASM, right? So it will be like purely a practical implementation will be dealing with this particular ASM once we start with our installation. Right. Any questions so far on this chapter, whatever we explained so far?
Hi, Malik. This is Khadir Ahmed. I have a couple of questions. Can I ask?
Yeah, please.
So this rack, which are going to show us teachers. So this is includes EBS rack or without EBS rack?
No EBS.
I mean without EBS.
Yeah.
Okay. So does in the entire course you are going to cover only ASM? Other than ASM, are you also going to show us different storage like NAS, DAS?
No, only ASM storage.
Okay. Does it also including ASM patching as well in the course?
Yes, I'm going to explain next. Further will be your patching here, chapter number
Oh,
19.
okay. Thank you.
Right. Next, going further, what is included again here? the cluster where, okay, we did so far installation of my grid, installation of my database, installation of my rack cluster, and followed by we understood about ASM architecture, ASM storage. We deal with the administration of disk groups, creation of disk groups with the various redundancies, normal redundancy, high redundancy, and external redundancies, and adding a disk, dropping a disk, and rebalancing and distributing the data, mirroring and striping, all those concepts here. And followed by your clusterware administration and database administration. Here, chapter number 11, 12, 13 is purely of your RAC database and the RAC clusterware administration. There will be lot of services, lot of daemons will be get added to your clusterware, right? So those all demands your CRS-CTL versus SRS-CTL. When you do a stop your cluster, start your cluster, there will be sequence of series will happens, and what sequence, which services it get started on which OHSD followed by your CSSD followed by your CRSD followed by so many daemons, so many cluster services will be get started in a order. We'll be calling it as a your clusterware startup sequence. So one of the commonly asked interview questions, can you explain about your clusterware startup sequence? It'll start from OHSD. OHSD stands for Oracle High Availability Service Daemon. So OHSD, once the OHSD is started, and furthermore your CSSD, again CSSD stands for Cluster Service Synchronization Daemon. So again, these words look to be complicated at this point of time, but once you start learning this course, you will be able to easily answer all these questions. And followed by that CSSD, your CRSD, Cluster Ready Service, and followed by so many other daemons and services will be get started. So we'll understand all those services, why I need my OHSD, why I need CSSD. So more oftenly, many people will ask node eviction, right? My node got evicted from my cluster node got rebooted. So your CSSD is responsible for that. Any node eviction, your CSSD is the one which is going to do the decision. Okay, node 1 is not communicating, let's evict that. Node 2 is not able to ping the voting disk, evict that. Your CSSD is the one which is going to take a call or decision to evict the node. Right. So we'll start understanding the core fundamental daemons for my clusterware, how my clusterware startup sequence works, what is HAS, what is OHSD, what is CSSD, what is CRSD, and followed by so many other daemons. So event monitor, GIPCD, GPNPD, MDNSD, so many other cluster daemons will come into picture. We'll explain all of them, what are the dependencies and what are the startup sequence for all of them. So that is your clusterware startup sequence and administration, how I can reboot my independent single node, how I can reboot my all the cluster nodes, and followed by how I can manage all my cluster resources or cluster services, your OCR, OLR, voting disk, your VIPs, scan IPs, public IPs, private IPs, how I can manage them. If I want to change any one of these IPs, what are the prerequisites? What are the post checks I need to do? So we'll talk about all of them, cluster resources and cluster daemons and cluster services here. And followed by chapter number 13 is for your database, RAC database, how I can administrate my database, how I can shut down my database, how I can shut down. You can, being a rack is a multiple instance, like node 1, 2, 3, 4, and my instance will be running on 1, 2, 3, 4. How I can shut down my database? Is it a complete downtime or partial single node downtime? How to shut down the instance? How to start the instance? How to shut down the database? Start the database? And where are these data files are located? My control file, to-do log files, my archive log files, my data files, and whatever related to my database, where they are stored. Are they stored under ASM or are they stored under my local storage? And where is my password file? Where is my SP file? Is it under disk group or is it locally stored? And what are my table spaces? For example, what are my undo table spaces? What are my redo logs? Is the redo logs or undo or my data files are available for all the nodes, or it's a commonly shared between all the nodes, or each individual node has its own files? That is your the architecture, that's your backend storage structure for your data files for that particular database, all the database related files. If I say again common questions, is your RAC database redo logs are shared between all the instances? The answer is no. So your redo logs are only for that node specific. You have a node 1, it has one set of redo logs. You have a node 2, it has its own redo log. You have a node 3, it has its own redo log. You have a node 4, it has its own redo logs. And what about your undo data files? Is my undo data files are shared across all the nodes? No, undo data files also independent of that particular node. Node 1 has its own undo, node 2 has its own undo, node 3 has its own undo, node 4 has its own undo data files. And what about my other data files, system, sysocs, or the users or apps? Those data files are shared across all the rack instances. If you have 4 node rack, all the 4 node rack access the same data files except your redo logs and undo. Those are node specific. Why so? Again, we'll explain in details once we start this particular course. Right? Looks interesting, right? Why my redo logs are independent? Each node has its own redo logs. Each node has its own undo data files. But other data files are shared across all the nodes. Why so? And what's the dependency on that? So we'll explain more details on that, right? And followed by redo logs, control files, and my table spaces and all those, how the RAC database look like. Right. Going forward, once we understand about the administration part of my clusterware or my database, we'll start with the backups and recoveries. So my RAC database, level 0 backup, level 1 backup, full backup, incremental backup, differential backup, and my control file backup, my SP file backup, my archive log backup. And once we have that backup, how I can restore my database, how I can clone my database. And you can restore your control file, you can restore archive logs, you can restore your independent single data files, and you can do an entire database cloning, or you can restore your entire database to any point in time. So that will be your backups and recovery will be covered here. Right. And
I have.
mhm.
I'm sorry, Malik. I just wanted to know that during the session or during the sessions of your practice sessions, how long we are going to access your machines? I mean, your machines which are going to provide us.
No, I'm going to explain that one in a further. Please stand by.
Oh,
Hi, Malik. This is Deepak here. So, during for this backup, you have been told that RMAN will be covered here.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
And
all
like
backups and recovery depend upon your RMAN only.
okay. RMAN concept and everything will be covered here, right?
Right.
Okay. And like as this like course is for the 6 week, so were we able to complete all the things in 6 week, or do we
Right.
have some homework or like after session?
We'll be able to complete.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thanks.
Right. The further concept to that particular course is your listeners, right? So one of the commonly asked interview questions in many interview, if you go for any interview, what is CAN listener? What is your local listener? What's your remote listener? What's your ASM listener? What are your grid listeners? What are your database listeners? So there will be like 4 to 5 types of listeners: ASM net listener, ASM listener, grid listener, your scan listener, local listener, your database listener. So looks very scary, right? Why so many listeners? But once you try to understand the concept, we'll make it so easy that you can able to grasp and you can able to answer any of these questions. So these are like 5 to 6 types of listeners. And again, starting with the uh, 19 CR node, there's a one more listener get added, your ASM net listener. You have something called uh, proxy. Instead of proxy, you can something you can say flex cluster. Flex cluster came into picture in 19C. In that 19C, again one extra listener get added. That is ESM net listener. So we'll be covering all those listeners. Once we understand this chapter, you will be able to answer any of these questions. What is database listener, grid listener, or ASM listener, local listener, or remote listener, scan listener, or ASM net listener? You'll be able to understand all of them, how the client connection works, how the load balancing works. Everything will be covered over there. Right. And going further, multi-tenant. Again, multi-tenant is going to be one of the core fundamental asset now going forward. Any DBS going forward, multi-tenant architecture is going to be future. So starting with the, let's say here, right. So with 12C onwards, this multi-tenant architecture came into picture. So till 11G, it's a normal database architecture. So whatever instance followed by database instance, again combination of your memory plus background processes, the same concept. But 12C onwards, we got a two concept. When you are creating your database, you can create your database as a normal database or multi-tenant database in 12C. And again, same thing goes for your 18C. 18C, you can create it as a normal database or multi-tenant database. You have these options. When you start creating your database, it will give you option. Even in 19C, again, you want to create a database as a normal database or multi-tenant database. But whereas in 21C onwards, there is no normal database concept. Any database you create, it will be multi-tenant database only. And starting with again 21, it will be default multi-tenant. And even 23C, which is released a few months back, that is also same. Only multi-tenant database is the only concept. So what that indicates, any DBAs going forward to understand and learn this multi-tenant concept is mandatory. Oracle is going towards multi-tenant concept. So any DBA has to understand, learn this multi-tenant architecture. That's nothing but CDB and then PDB. Multi-tenant architecture, nothing but it's a combination of CDB and PDB, container database plus pluggable database. So we'll understand complete understanding of the CDBs and PDBs, how the CDB level, PDB level, data files, control files, redo log files, archive log files, Oracle home, listeners, everything how will be set up, and then how I can clone one PDB to other PDB, how I can access from one PDB to other PDB via DB link, and then where are my PDB data files, control files, redo log files, archive log files. Again, same thing for your CDB, control file, redo log files, archive log files. Where are those located? How I can manage my CDB and PDB, how I can connect to my CDBs and PDB. Inside CDB, I have 10 PDBs, how I can connect to a particular PDB where my users are stored, local user and common user, and then how I can take a backup of my PDBs and CDBs, and where my backups and restore works, whether it's at PDB level or whether it's at CDB level. So that all will be like understand on this multi-tenant architecture. Again, remember, this is going to be mandatory for any DBS. So any DBA going forward has to learn multi-tenant. So that's going to be the future focus from Oracle side. Right. And then the further concept, ACFS, as I said, the basic fundamental of ASM, right? ASM will basically provide two things. One is storage. Your database will be stored under that ASM. ASM, again, name itself stands for automatic storage management. And then other concept is instance. Your ASM instance will act as a mediator. Any database, you have database one is running, and that database is stored under your ASM storage. And your ASM instance will act as a mediator between your database and the storage. And anything database is writing into storage or reading into storage, your ASM will help us communication between that database instance and the storage. So that is a primary thing. On top of that, ASM will provide so many other features. One is your ACFS, ASM cluster file system. ACFS stands for ASM cluster file system, and that internally make use of ADVM, ASM dynamic value manager. So dynamically you can increase and decrease all the file system of your ACFS. So with the help of ADVM, we'll create ACFS and we'll mount it as a normal mount point. And ACFS will understand end-to-end creation of my ACFS file system and increasing, decreasing, and destroying that and mounting it as a normal file system. We'll understand that. That's one of the key concept for RAC. When you're working on RAC, many customers, you can see this ACFS file system. So we'll understand that. And also along with the ASM concept, when we're explaining, we'll be explaining about so many features like mirroring, striping, redundancies, fault tolerance, and disk adding, disk dropping, and creation of your ASM disk group with different mirroring. Along with that, administration and maintenance of those particular disk groups will be covered. Right. So that's for your HFS. As part of ASM will be covered HFS as well. Right. And then rack one node. Rack one node is nothing but, let's say I have 4 node, and then I have my ASM instance 1, ASM instance 2, and ASM instance 3, and my ASM instance 4. So you have 4 node rack, and once you create your database called DB, and you will be having your DB instance 1 here, DB instance 2 here, and DB instance 3 here, and DB instance 4 here. So you have 4 DB instances which are running across all the 4 nodes. But rack one node, let's say I have DB called dev. So for this dev DB will be running on any one of the node, but any given point of time. So we'll be covering very shortly about rack one node and then how we can relocate that rack one node from one instance. For example, dev, the dev instance 1 will be running on node 1 at any given point of time. If node 1 goes down, automatically node 2, the dev instance 2 will get started. So that is your rack one node concept. So with this rack one node concept, what's the advantages? What's the importance of rack one node? Why we need that one? There's a specific need for that. I don't want to interfere my services node 1 and 2. I'll be running my UAT. I don't want my dev database to run under node 1 and 2. I want to run my dev 2 always on node 3. So go with rack one node. So I'm going to cover that some importance about rack one node. And also I have standalone database here. I have my UAT database. It's a one node. My server UAT database is running. How I can convert this database as a RAC database? So that will be your conversion. So that will be comes under this particular chapter here. If I can go here, converting your single instance. It's a single UAT database running under one single node. I want to convert it as a RAC database. There are many methods. You can use a DBCA, or you can use a enterprise manager, or you can use a rconfig, or you can simply have your rman backup and restore it and convert it as a RAC database. So that will be covered as a extra topic for on top of that rman restore and recover, how we can convert it, your standalone database as a RAC, or you have this RAC database here, DB database running with the 4 node RAC. You can take a backup and you can convert it as a, or you can clone it as a single node database. So that is also possible. Will be covered here in chapter number 22, the conversion or the cloning of the multi-node RAC database to a single node or single node database to a RAC database. Right. And then going further here, so once we understand RAC one node and different types of databases, we'll be starting with the patching exercise. So we'll patch my grid, the grid infrastructure, the GI, and followed by your Oracle home and followed by your database. So there's a 3 steps here: GI home, grid home patching, followed by your Oracle home patching, and followed by your database patching. 3 steps for any patching. Again, how you can do this patching? You can do a patching in rolling fashion. Since it's a rack node, like 4 node rack, you can do a 1 node at a time, or you can do all the 4 node in one time. That is rolling patching and non-rolling patching. You can take based upon your downtime, whether to go with the rolling patching or non-rolling patching. We'll be explaining both the concept. And then what are the tools involved here? OPatch versus OPatch Auto. You can use either OPatch, that's a manual patching, OPatch Auto, that's automatic patching. So you can use either OPatch or OPatch Auto. And then you do your patching. What are the steps? Pre-steps and post-steps. Once you do a patching of your grid, Oracle home, and you do a database patching. Using a data patch, we use database patching. So again, there will be many questions around this patching for any of the interview appear. What is OPatch and what is OPatch Auto? What's the difference between OPatch and OPatch Auto? And where it will come a lot of questions around that. Inventory. There will be central inventory and local inventory. What is central inventory? What is local inventory? Will be explained on that. And what is rolling patching and non-rolling patching? And again explained on that. So can I patch my DB homes without my ASM home? Can I patch my only ASM home without DB home patching? And then how I can handle this patching in case of standby database. I have my prod database and followed by standby database. Like say I have 2 node primary and I have 2 node standby. How I can do patching, whether I can do a standby first or the primary first. And then I just say GI patching, grid or ASM patching, Oracle home patching, followed by database patching. So am I going to do the same 3 steps on the standby side? And then what happens if I patch only standby? I don't patch primary. What happens if I patch primary and I don't patch standby? What's the difference is? So it will be explained along with this patching concept here, all this. Right. Any questions so far? Right. And then on top of that, the database upgradation. So the database upgradation, again, there will be 4 to 5 types of database upgradations. You can go with the manual method of your database upgradation or shell script or the Perl script or the DBUA, the graphical user GUI mode, or you can go with the 19C new feature called auto upgrade. Use any of these method and you can do your 11G database to 19C upgrade or 12C database to 19C upgrade. So what are your upgrade paths? So whether directly I can upgrade from 11G to 19C or 10G to 19C and all those pre-checks, post-checks, and again there will be 4 to 5 method: manual method, Perl script, shell scripting upgrade, or your 19C new feature called auto upgrade, or the GUI method, the graphical user interface GUI mode of your upgradation DBUA. So all of them will be covered along with the pre-task, post-task. Like one example is pre-task is you're going to create a restore point, guarantee restore. We call it as a GRP, guarantee restore point. What's the importance of that? Why we're going to create that restore point? In case of anything, your upgrade fails, you can easily flash back your database to that restore point. And then what happens? What are internally going to happen when you do a database upgrade? So your database will be remain same. Only you're going to rebuild the metadata from whatever the metadata applicable to 11G or 12C. You're going to rebuild according to your 19C. So one of the common questions in this upgrade scenario is my database is 10 terabyte and my database is 1 terabyte. Is there any time difference to do the database upgrade? Is it the same time or is it going to take my 1 terabyte is going to take 1 hour, 10 terabyte database upgrade, is that going to take 10 hours? Again, these are the common tricky questions comes across when you're appearing for the interview. So once you do a hands-on lab exercise for this upgradation, you'll be able to answer all of these questions by your own. Right. And then chapter number 11, so 21 is for node addition or node removal. Right now, let's say I have 2 node rack setup. I need to add 1 more node. That's your node addition, 3 node rack. And if you have 3 node rack, you want to delete one of the node, you can remove that. Node addition and node removal will be covered. Right. On top of this, we'll be covering some critical scenarios at the end of the course, but are not specified over here, but default it will be understood or part of this course. That is, my OCR is corrupted. What happens? My OLR is corrupted. What happens? My voting disk is corrupted. What happens? Again, at this point, if you're not aware about this OCR, OLR, and voting disk, again, these are the core fundamental, uh, you know, need for my rack cluster where, as I explained here, if you scroll up, so your OCR, voting disk, and your OLR, that will be part of this course. We'll be explaining in details, and these are a core fundamental component or the concept or the resources for your rack cluster where to up and running and do a functionality. So these are like mandatory things. So once these are corrupted, what happens to your clusterware? How I can restore these OCR, OLR, and voting disk? How I can take a backup of this? We have a various utility, OCR config, OCR dump, and you have these are the tools when you deal with your OCR, OLR, and voting disk. Especially for OCR and OLR, we deal with OCR config and OCR dump and OCR check other utilities. with the help of those utilities, we can manage this component, the corruption check and backing up of them and restoring of them. And once you do this restore and recovery of your OCR and OLR, what are the impact on your cluster? Is it a downtime or is it not a downtime? So all will be explained over here. And then voting disk, again, there's a different concept across voting disk, why we need a voting disk. Again, when you talk about voting disk, there will be a lot of things on that. There will be a network heartbeat, there will be a disk heartbeat, there will be a concept called split brain syndrome, and there's a concept called simple majority rule. We should have an odd number of voting disk. Why should have an odd number of voting disk? Again, we have something called quorum disk. So especially in Exadata, we call something called a quorum disk. So based upon your redundancies, your number of voting disk plays very, very important role. Again, one of the common question is your simple majority rule. What is simple majority rule? And what is disk heartbeat? What is network heartbeat? And what is split brain syndrome? And what is cache fusion? And so many things, right? So those will be covered as part of this course. But at the end of the course, so we'll be demonstrating or simulating about this kind of a crash scenario. OCR is crashed, what happens? OLR is crashed, what happens? Voting disk is crashed, what happens? And then how to restore them from with the help of the backups. Right. So that's the overall course curriculum, what is planned for this particular course. And then followed by, at the end of the course, we'll be talking about cover letter and resume preparation. We'll discuss about cover letter and resume. And because at the end of this course, the everyone intention is to get a new opportunities or new job or change internally to the new project within the organization. So we'll be explaining about resume and cover letter, which is very, very important concept. Because if your resume is not strong enough, so your resume will not be get shortlisted at the first place when you're applying it for the job interview. If your resume is not strong enough, they're going to reject in the first place. So because every job, each job, there will be hundreds or thousands of applications. So first, getting shortlisted is very, very important. That will be purely based upon how strong your resume and cover letter is. We'll talk about that, and followed by the sample interview and questions. I already listed like hundreds or thousands of questions and written most of them answer. So you just go through all of them, and I'm going to explain a few of them. So that's a single place you might have already seen. I'll be posting many important questions, and those all questions will be answered and kept it under Google Drive. So you can easily able to go through them and understand all of them. And at the end of the course, again, it is subjected to everyone's interest. I'll be conducting a mock interview for 1-to-1. So you can probably register for that, and I'll be connecting with you. It's kind of a real mock interview. You will be feeling that you are attending for a real-time interview, and I'll be asking the questions and you'll be able to answer that. And in case of you, if you're making any small mistakes here and there, so I'll be noting down and then I'll be giving a feedback after the end of that session, right? That is subjected to everyone's interest. If you're interested, register for that. Otherwise, it's not a mandatory thing. Right, so that's overall course structures or the course curriculum. So again, I got a few feedback from the previous class or previous to previous class, like, can we include some golden gate concept? Can we include some OEM related concept? So that can be included because that is totally out of the syllabus. If I include that, not look like your RAC curriculum, but those are the concept will be explained 1 or 2 extra session after end of this course. It's not enough here, right? If you're interested in Oracle licensing or OEM concept or golden gate or any advanced concept, like for example, Exadata, you want to understand some of the basic steps. So based upon your request, I'll be taking 1 or 2 extra classes or few extra classes to cover these extra topics, but purely those are totally out of the course and I have not included here. Right, so that's a course curriculum. Many questions so far.
Yeah, so
Hello.
Yeah, please.
This is Mukta. What about the lab facilities? Is they providing our remote session, or else it should be providing through
I'll
any?
explain that one. I'll explain here in the
so
prerequisites.
so Malik, this is Deepak here. So I understand. So like the basic concept at least we will get to know for the Golden Gate and OEM. That would
I
be
I
great.
don't promise for now, because again it is subjected to everyone interest. So that will be extra covered at the end of this course, based
Okay.
upon everyone interest and based upon the what is majorly asked. So it will be covered. But again, as of this particular promised course curriculum is what I explained so far.
And what is the coverage for the topic on the weekly basis? 3, 4 topics on every week.
Right, right.
And it will be going to be complete 7th of
Yeah,
November, right?
right. We'll be able to complete in 5 weekends, but one extra weekend will be discussed, kept for general discussion or questions, queries, and so many other things. Right.
Hi Malik, will the sessions get recorded and will it be available for us for if we want to
Right.
and will how long will that be accessible and like
That's I'm going to answer it in the next question. Right. Let's continue further. Let's see. We'll be getting answer for your questions.
okay.
Right. So that's a course curriculum what I explained. And if I talk with the course duration or course timing or the fee structure, again, the timing is going to be fixed. So we're going to start from the next weekend. Right. So this is, as I said, today and tomorrow are going to be just a demo classes. As I said, like today, 30th and 1st of October are going to be demo classes, and actual class is going to start next Saturday, 7th of October, Saturday. And then the timing is going to be fixed, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday. That will be of 9:30 p.m. EST to 1:30 a.m. EST, 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday. So start with the 7th and 8th October. If I get my calendar here, 7th and 8th are the first weekend, and followed by 14th and 15th October, 21st and 22nd October, and followed by, sorry, here, first 7th and 8th October, 24th and 25th October, and 21st and 22nd October, and followed by 28th and 29th October, and now will be like 4th, your November 4th and 5th, and followed by 11th and 12th. So November 11th and 12th, you will be able to complete everything. And if needed, we'll be extending one more weekend, that will be of 18th and 19th of November, if there's any extra or filler topics or anything want to discuss. But that's a course timing and the course curriculum, and the course duration will be like 5 weekends, or max we're going to go for 6 weekends, we'll be able to complete it. And then again, this is paid training. The course fees is going to be 15K INR or 185 US dollar. And the mode is going to be your online via Zoom session or Teams or Webex. I'm going to share the actual Zoom link. So today and tomorrow, what we're using is a public link. Zoom link will be available for everyone. But once we start our regular classes, we'll be sharing actual class, a Zoom or a Webex or a Teams link via our dedicated WhatsApp group. Right, it's on 19C version. Everything, whatever we cover, it based upon 19C Oracle version. And then, so one of the questions just now asked is how we are gonna communicate each other. We'll be creating a dedicated WhatsApp group for this particular batch, and the registered student who are made a payment or who are registered for this particular course will be adding into that particular WhatsApp group, and all the questions and queries will be discussed in that particular WhatsApp group. And as this particular course is the only weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and I'll be covering on during the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and you will be getting 5 weekdays, and you can go over those sessions and you can practice them. And any questions or queries you stuck, you can post it in the WhatsApp group. I'll be responding back. I'll be answering to your questions. That's how it's going to work. And in case if you're stuck and you will not be able to proceed further, and I can jump on a Zoom session any day during the weekdays based upon my availability and your availability, and I'll be taking some extra sessions via Zoom sessions. I'll take a look on your system, and then I'll be clarifying your questions and queries, and then you'll be unblocked. So that's a dedicated WhatsApp group. Every batch has its own WhatsApp group. Any questions and queries will be posted on that, so that it will be benefited to everyone in that group. if you have questions, if you post it in the group, so other person might be having the same questions. Other than interacting one-to-one, we can make use of this WhatsApp group so that it will be benefited to everyone. And then this WhatsApp group will be supported for lifetime. Like for example, even after the end of this course, you can use this WhatsApp group for any questions and queries. You can post any questions related to your work and you need some help or suggestions during your support for any client. You can post your questions in the group. So I'll be, helping you on that. Again, it is subjected to everyone who are interested can stay back in that group, or who are not interested, they can exit from that particular group. Again, this group will be available for lifetime support. And it's all left to you how interactive you post your questions or queries, because I'm ready to answer any of your questions. But only thing is you have to learn and you have to post your questions. Right, that's a WhatsApp group. And then everyday sessions, whatever we take, will be recorded and then uploaded into Google Drive. And then you'll be getting the Google Drive access, the course material. The very first link is your course material, where you'll be having all the PPTs, all the workbook, all the lab exercise, and whatever needed for this particular course will be uploaded here on the Google Drive. You'll be getting it in advance once you register for this course. And other information like whatever the software, tools, whatever needed for this particular course will be uploaded over here, along with the interview questions and answers, and some of the automation, scripting, and all those things will be uploaded over here in the other information. That's the second link. You will be getting it. And the third link is there will be previous batch recording. Like, I know a few of the guys who are already expert in the RAC and they want to brush up themselves, and even they are going to join. And for them, they want to learn everything in 1 week or 2 weeks. So I'll be granting the access on the previous batch recordings. You can start them watching in advance, so that I'll be posting in the group. So next weekend, I'll be covering RAC installation and cluster administration. So you can go back to that previous batch recording, watch them well in advance, so that you'll be prepared. And when we start the next weekend class, you'll be more interactive. You can ask more questions and queries during the session. So that's the idea of providing the previous batch recordings along with these ongoing batch recordings. And then you'll be getting this current batch recordings. So everyday sessions will be recorded and uploaded. So if you missed for today, again, you will be having this current batch recording and previous batch recording. You can go ahead and then watch them, and that will be available. Again, these are all uploaded into Google Drive on the same day itself, and then you can access them for a lifetime. There's no restriction at all. And even you can download these all course materials recording into your laptop. There's no restriction at all. That's a Google Drive access. Right. And then the regular sessions will be conducted from the next weekend onwards. And then the new Zoom sessions or the Teams or Webex sessions will be posted in our WhatsApp group for all the registered students. I think by this time, few people are already registered and I have granted access to that Google Drive. I know like from last 1 or 2 weeks, a few students are already going through the recordings and they're all watching the sessions and they're asking few questions on the group. That's a great progress with that. And again, few people already done the installation by their own. By watching the previous batch recordings, they already done the setup of their own. That's a great progress with them, right? Right.
Hey, Malik,
Any questions?
Malik, have you created this WhatsApp group?
Yes.
But
Already we got a few students and they already started watching the previous batch recordings. That's only for dedicated to registered students. Remember that.
But I have been registered, but I have not been
Again,
added.
registration in the sense you had to make a payment and then only will be added. That's a dedicated WhatsApp group for only the registered and paid students.
Dear, do you have any self-paced videos as well? Do we have an option to opt that?
No.
Okay, no self-paced.
No. All right.
Malik, the previous recorded sessions very useful, Malik.
Right.
Based on that one, I done one upgrade.
Right.
Also
I already saw your progress and I'm happy for that.
Right.
You made a very good progress on that.
Yeah.
Malik, what is the method to pay the amount?
I'll come to that point. Next questions. Right. So very important things before I go into that. One very important thing, point number 7, the prerequisites, right? Who can join this particular course? Anyone, like, it is a junior DBA or senior DBA or even Oracle expert, even you're having 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Even my previous batch, people with 10 years of experience, they joined. They want to enjoy the course. They want to understand more in-depth understanding of RAC concept, or they want to brush up themselves. Anyone can join. You are a DBA for 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years, or 10 years. You are a junior DBA, senior DBA, or even Oracle SME subject matter expert. Doesn't matter, this course is for everyone. This is a course which is formed based upon my experience as a 15 years of experience, what is needed for a DBA for day-to-day activities as a RAC expert. This course is formed. This is for everyone. Anyone can join this one. And what is needed before joining this course? You should know your basic database understanding. If you don't know, probably you don't join this course. First, you learn the database course and then join for this one. If you don't know, it will gonna be waste for your time and waste for our time, because the moment I say control file, you don't know control file, I'll not be able to explain you at this point, because this is RAC. You should be, the basic idea or understanding is you already know the database, basic understanding, control file, redo log files, arclog files, database architecture, instance, memory, SGA, PGA, all those concepts you should be aware. Then only the RAC concept will be easy for you. So you should be able to know the basics of database, and you should be able to understand the basics of SQL, how to learn the simple SQL statement, select star from with other database, select star from with other instance. You should be able to know the SQL statement, and you should be able to know the basics of Linux, how to connect to data Linux server, username, password, how to go to a particular directory. You should know the basics. If you don't know, then if I do CD, use your own app, grid, so what is CD? So that's going to be makes very complicated for even you and even for me for this particular RAC course. You should know the basics of SQLs, basics of Linux, and basics of database. Then only this particular course will make more sense. And then other very important things is the hardware requirement, because somebody asked how the lab exercise. The lab will be done the setup on your individual laptop or desktop. You're going to use something called Oracle Virtual Box, Oracle Virtualization. You're going to install that software, and on top of that, you will be setting up your own lab, 2-node or 3-node or 4-node rack based upon your laptop resource. I'm talking about 2-node rack here. You need a minimum of 18 GB RAM. So minimum, if you have 16 GB RAM, that is fair enough, but your server, your laptop or desktop will be very slow. You have to bear with that. If you have a 18 GB RAM, then your laptop will work without any issue. But if you have only 16 GB RAM and you'll be having some slowness in your laptop, so you have to compromise with that slowness, and you have to practice that. That is one thing. 16 GB is minimum, but 18 GB plus, you can go with a 24 or 36 GB. You can, it look like you're working on a real-time client environment, but with the 16 GB, there will be some delay. And you should have minimum of 100 GB. I can say 100 GB if you have, that's more than enough. But if you have more than 100 GB, like 150 GB SSD, I prefer to go with the SSD. So if you have a HDD, normal disk, so there will be again slowness in your VMs. But if you have SSD, your VMs will be much more faster. That's your minimum hardware requirement. It may varies from 16 GB, and it can go up to, you can have whatever laptop memory RAM you have it, right? And then somebody asked about the payment method, right? So as I said, this is going to be course, a paid training, and then you will be making a payment using a various method, phone pay, Google Pay, or bank transfer, or even if you're doing it for international transfer, you can use a MoneyGram or Western Union. So for that, you can feel free to ping me on my WhatsApp number. I'm gonna guide you for individual for further payment process. So either you can reach out to me by a Gmail, or you can ping me on my WhatsApp number. Here is my WhatsApp number, +9800-616-848. You can ping me on my WhatsApp, or you can drop me an email. I can further provide you the payment processing. Again, as I said, you can go with the phone pay, or Google Pay, or Even you can go with the bank transfer, or if you're doing it for international transaction from outside India, you can use a Western Union or MoneyGram. All the details will be shared one-to-one in WhatsApp or via email. So you can be in connect with me in WhatsApp on my WhatsApp number, or send me an email, mallikarjun.ramdurga@gmail.com. I'll be guiding you further through the payment process. Right. Any questions so far? Whatever we talked about the course curriculum.
Malik, once we will do the payment, you will get the confirmation over the WhatsApp immediately.
Yes.
Okay.
You can make a
Mallikarjun?
payment, send me the screenshot and ping me your full name, ping me your Gmail ID. I can validate the payment and then I can add you to WhatsApp group and I can grant you the access and then we'll take it further from there.
Okay.
I have a question here. Before we take the course, do we have to have 18 GB RAM in our local laptops? That is a very pre-req, right? I mean, before we
Right.
start it.
Right.
Okay.
So as you said, Malik, like I'm having only 16 GB, so that's fine, right?
That's fine. As I said, like it'll be a little slow. You have to bear with that.
Okay.
But 18 GB onwards, it'll work like real-time servers, no delay, no lagging, and you can easily work on that. And again, it will be SSD. Minimum 100 GB SSD is needed, and anything more than that will be good. Like if it's not a SSD, again there will be slowness in your VMs. All right. That's again what we covered. Just recap, and then we started with our introduction about me, course curriculum, very well framed course. Again, you just go through all of them. I'm going to share this in my LinkedIn or my Facebook or YouTube. I'm going to share this. Again, you might be already gone through this course curriculum. If you're interested, just I'm going to ping here in the chat. You can just always refer the course curriculum. And again, one more thing, I'm going to repeat again, the course duration, course curriculum, and the course fee structure. So we'll be starting from the next weekend, and 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday. Only weekend batch. This is covered only on weekends. And then it will be a 5 to 6 weekend we'll be able to complete. And again, it is a paid training, 15K, 15,000 Indian rupees or 185 US dollar. And then once you make a payment, once you register, and you can send me the screenshot with your email ID and your full name, I'll be adding you into WhatsApp group and I'll be granting the access, and then we'll take it from there. And then once you do a registration, you'll be getting access on these 4 links: course material, all the PPTs, workbook, lab exercise, along with that, the softwares and other information, and the previous batch recording and current ongoing batch recordings. And from the next weekend onwards, we'll be using a dedicated Zoom or Webex link will be shared in our WhatsApp group for all the registered or all the registered student who had made a payment will be getting access via that WhatsApp group. Again, that WhatsApp group and the WhatsApp group will be accessible for lifetime. You can post any questions, queries, or all the discussion happens to that WhatsApp group. And then the course, whatever the Google Drive link will be like lifetime accessible. All the recordings, everything will be accessible. Even you can download it locally. No restriction on that. Right. With that, if no further questions on the course topic or the core curriculum, I can quickly go ahead and then talk about 1 or 2 topics for today, and then we'll continue tomorrow for the further discussion. Right. Let's say I'll give 1 or 2 minutes pause here for anyone has any questions, queries.
Malik, tomorrow also, is it a continuation or it's the same thing?
Tomorrow I'm
Yeah.
going to continue, as you can see here. Right, let's say this is my plan. Right now, we covered point number 1, introduction about me, course curriculum, and course duration, fee structure, and course timing. And we just covered about Google Drive access, how you're going to access. And then Google Drive access, like interesting thing, right? If I just open one of the Google Drive access here. Give me a second. Right, let's say Right. So how the recordings will be, I'm just going to open one of the previous batch recordings. Right. If I can open the previous batch recordings. So what I'm going to do, everyday sessions, right? Like, every day I'll be uploading the sessions. Along with that, I'll be uploading that whatever the command I'm typing it here. For example, my database upgrade. This is one of the upgrade sessions I took. And then I'll be uploading the recordings. You can watch the recordings here or you can download it. Just you can right click and then download it locally on your laptop. Download it locally on your laptop or desktop. And along with that, I'll be uploading the notepad, whatever the command I'm gonna fire on my local laptop. And then whatever my lab, I'm gonna running all the commands. I'll be uploading the same notepad along with the session. Because when you're watching the recordings, you don't need to search for the commands. You just open this notepad and search the same command and you can practice it by your own. So each sessions, every day or every weekend session, along with that, we'll be uploading the notepad, what I'm filing or what I'm running it on my uh, command line. Let's say these are my labs here. I just connected. And then whatever the command I'm gonna file here, the same, I'll just copy everything and then I'll post it along with the video. So you can just refer that on when you're watching the recordings, right? So this will be available in your Google Drive. That's one thing, right? Along with that, you will be having the course curriculum, course materials. If I open that one, just to show you how it looks like. So this is your first link. It will be having all the course curriculum, course material, the lab exercise, and the PPTs, and the patching, and some extra documents, some of the ebooks, and some of the DR related documents. So you can just refer them. And if I go with the second link, that will be the softwares, the patches, and whatever the needed. This is your first link, course curriculum and course material, and the second link is other information, the patches and the softwares and other tools. And the third link is for the previous batch recording. This is my previous batch recordings. And then there'll be like the ongoing batch recording for this current batch. Will be starting today. So some of the pre-recorded sessions I uploaded here, and then I request you to just go to watch this. These are like, not out of this particular course topic, but this is some pre-recorded sessions which will be easy for you to understand and do a setup of your lab and so many other steps. Like these are like, outside of this particular scheduled topics. So it's good to go over these pre-recorded sessions. Right, so these are the 4 links. You'll be getting it as part of this particular course. Right, and then we talked about this.
Hello,
demo
Malik.
link. Yeah.
So, are there any scripts also that will be shared to us? Like any
There'll
scripts that will be helpful us in
be a lot
our
of
company?
scripts. There'll be a lot of scripts already uploaded. If you go to the other information here, and there'll be monitoring and automation script. There'll be a lot of how you can check your free space, how you can check your DG gap, the production database gap, how you can delete. One of the common questions, how I can delete my audit file, trace files, TRM files, and how I can delete my archive files, and how the monitoring tool. I want to monitor my database growth over a period of time, how I can do that one. And then I want to monitor the disk group space usage. So there will be a lot of monitoring automation script will be uploaded here. Again, these are extra out of this course, but it will be helpful for everyone day-to-day activities.
How we
Okay.
get
And one
the
more
access?
thing, please carry on.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. And one more thing, today and tomorrow we have demo sessions, right?
Yeah.
And on 7th onwards, we'll be starting a fresh batch, correct?
Right.
So, will the demo will be continuing of that batch or will we be starting a fresh one?
That's what I'm coming here. Right now, we completed point number 7. Now I'm going to talk about today 1 or 2 topics here, and I will be planning for 8 to 9 topics for this demo. I'll just start. I will left with another 30 minutes. We'll cover these 2 topics for today, and then tomorrow onwards we'll be starting with these 4 more chapters.
Okay, I mean like 7th we'll be starting the batch, correct? So will
That's
that be
a
a
fresh
continuation of
batch.
the demo batch? No, right?
No. These
Okay,
are like
understood.
just a general topics I'm talking here.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks.
So like we will get the access for our mail ID for the this how to get this access for the right, Malik?
After the payment, it's all dedicated for all the students. As I said already, the students who are made a payment and part of their WhatsApp group, they already got access on this one. They're referring this. and they're practicing it.
Yeah, Malik, like I have done some partial payment. You just get me confirm, and then I will do the rest of the payment.
Yeah, I will
That's
take
fine.
it offline. Yeah, we'll take
Yeah,
it
please.
offline.
Malik, I hope if I have joined on the next weekend, uh, it would be the same, right? Like nothing. It would be starting. It would be the from the start
Right.
of the course.
The 7th October is the one where we will be starting from the scratch.
Okay.
And this today and tomorrow are going to be a demo sessions. Will be totally out of the whatever the planned course.
Okay. Even though if I don't join tomorrow, it's okay.
Anyway, this will be recorded and uploaded. You can watch it.
Okay. Thank you.
Malik, one more thing. Actually, I pinned you a couple of feedbacks in Telegram asking for a bulk payment method rather of going for each and individual all courses, right? I want to take suppose all the courses which you are providing, right? So will there be any concession on that?
Yes. You can
Yeah.
talk again. You can ping me offline. We'll discuss one to one. I
Yeah,
ping my
already pinged
WhatsApp
you like
number here.
couple of. Sure, sure. I'll ping you over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any
And
questions on the so far
other
topics?
than this rack, what are the other courses which you do?
Right now, we'll be taking only database and RAC courses. The next course I'm going to start, these RAC and database courses will be starting from last 3.5 years. And the
Okay.
next course I'll be, if at all I start it, that will be a performance PT classes. That will be of starting with the 1st of Jan. I'll be starting the very first batch on the performance tuning. This RAC and database courses are the two courses will be teaching it from last 3.5 years. But based upon the previous batch, the previous student request, very first time I'll be starting the performance tuning classes, starting with 1st of Jan 2024.
Any plans for Exadata?
No.
Okay, thank you.
What about the golden gate, Malik?
Again, based upon the request.
Okay.
All right. Let's continue
No,
for one topic.
Malik, one more thing regarding that one more sessions you had added regarding the Oracle Cloud. Can I use the same rack configuration, installation configuration in Oracle Cloud Technologies?
Yep.
Can
That's
you
right. Same process.
same process?
Yeah.
So the lift and shift is the different concept, right? To move
That
the
is
data.
that's on your, especially on EBS will do that lift and shift.
Oh, okay. Okay. I will go through.
All right. Let's quickly cover one or two topics for today, just to glance it out before we wind up. I'm just gonna talk about one difference as part of this demo, and then tomorrow we can continue. Let's talk about first is the difference between standalone and rack, and followed by the different installation types for my standalone and rack, and what are the file system for today. And then tomorrow we can continue with the architecture, networking, and cluster startup sequence and other stuff. So we all aware that a standalone server, what I can do now before that, types of databases. So types of databases, if somebody asks what are the different types of databases available for my Oracle, the very first thing is your standalone. Standalone, I can say without ASM, and then standalone with ASM. Basically your ASM is the storage. Here it's the file system is the storage. Standalone without ASM and standalone with ASM is the two types of database. So this is called a single instance database, and this is called Oracle Restart. So that's the difference here. Both are standalone single server and single instance are running, but we call it as a single instance here without ASM. This is your database will be running under file system, your OS file system. And standalone with ASM, your database will be running under ASM. That's called your Oracle Restart. So just to give you brief idea on that, on my lab here, So this is my S1 DevDB database is running here. This database is called, this is my lab 1. Right, this is my standalone without ASM. Standalone without ASM, that pretty much your database will be running under a local file system. So if I can connect to this database quickly, DevDB, select, I can list out all the data file, control file, select name from $, data file. So all the data files are available under /u0 and app oracle locally. These are my local file system. When anything start with a slash, that's a local file system. It may be NFS or SAN, NAS, or whatever it is. So my data files are stored under locally on this server. This is my standalone server without ASM. And same thing for your select name from $, control file. So for my database, again, I have control file 1 and 2, multiplex control file. Again, you all will be aware that what is control file and what is multiplexing of control file. That's a duplicate copy of the same control file. Again, control files are also available under local file system. Select member from $, log file, all the log files for the database, redo logs. Again, all are redo logs available locally under local file system. That is without ASM. Show parameter SP file. So again, my SP file is available under Oracle Home, DBS, SP file locally under local file system here. And if I go inside this Oracle Home and DBS location, and if I do my password file, that will be always start with Vara PW and PW DevDB. That's my password file for this database. So my password file, SP file, P file, control file, redo log files, data files, everything is available locally under the file system. That is my first type of database in my Oracle. Standalone database without ASM. That is under local file system. That's a single instance. We call it as a single instance. Standalone with ASM, that is called as a Oracle restart. So I have Oracle Lab 2 here. This is my Oracle Lab 2 where I have test database here, and you can see one extra instance that is plus ASM. And in my Lab 1, Oracle Lab 1, I have only DevDB, no ASM instance here. So on Lab 2, I have ASM instance and the test database is running. So this is called your Oracle restart server. If I run the same command,
It is same as the single node Oracle instance, right?
right? Single server, single instance. So all the data files, systems, sysacs, undo users, everything start with a plus. That meaning your database are stored under ASM. If anything start with a slash, that's a local file system. It may be local file system or NFS, SAN, NAS, whatever it is, but it's a locally mounted file system on the server. But anything start with this plus, that's the indication of your ASM storage. Your data files are under ASM and your control files, if I run it, control files are under data and record, again, multiplex control file. Again, those are stored under your disk group. Your ASM is a storage here. And if I check for my redo logs, online redo log files, all online redo log files are data, record, data, record, data, and record. Again, multiplex redo logs with the 3 redo logs. Redo log 1, 2, 3. These are redo log groups, combination of multiple redo logs. All are available under plus. Again, ASM storage. And then show parameter SP file. And my SP file is available again under disk group, ASM disk group. Again, password file is available under my ASM disk group. So everything is stored under ASM here. And since we have ASM instance here, we call this database as a Oracle restart here. We call it as a Oracle restart. So I'll just copy this 2 lines. Right. The difference between lab 1 and lab 2, I have a DevDB here and TestDB here, but I have one extra ASM instance here. Because of this ASM instance, we call it as a Oracle restart. Why we call it as a Oracle restart? If suppose your instance is killed, right? If I say TestDB, I'm gonna kill that one. Esmon, your database instance is gone. Your database instance is went down due to some network issue or due to some OS issue or due to some one of the critical processes got killed or some anything happened at your OS level due to some emergency server goes reboot. Anything happens, your database is goes down, and we call it as a Oracle restart because we have a ASM instance. That ASM instance internally brings your database back online. Right, you can see your database is back online now. That's the capability of your restart, Oracle restart capability. Whereas on lab 1, if I kill this particular DevDB database, it will never come back online. Right, Esmon. So your DB is gone now. On the lab 1, it's a file system database. Your DB is gone. And why DB is gone? Maybe various reasons, network issue or OS issue or some process killed or anything happened on the OS level, or your server due to emergency shutdown, your data center server rebooted and your database is gone. So you have to manually connect to server and you have to start your database here in the file system. Whereas in the Oracle restart, you no need to worry. As part of the restart, ASM will take care of the database. The database will be automatically brought online. And there might be a question, what happens if my ASM itself is killed? My ASM itself is killed here in the restart server. Again, the ASM itself is killed here. And in few seconds, your ASM will be automatically back online. And that ASM internally brings your database online. And in that Oracle restart, as part of ASM installation, as part of database installation, we installed something called HAS, OHSD, Oracle High Availability Service Daemon. And on top of this HAS, your ASM will run. And on top of this ASM, your DB will run. So anything you do shut down and start up your database, your ASM will bring that online. Like, if the OS level DB is abnormally shut down, killed OS process or OS rebooted, your ASM will automatically bring it up. And somebody has killed your ASM instance or OS reboot happens, your ASM will go down, your DB will go down, and there's a OHSD daemon process. And that daemon process internally brings your ASM instance up. That ASM internally brings your database instance up. And then this OHSD is part of your ASM installation. The ASM installation internally installs this OHSD, Oracle High Availability Service daemon, and that daemon will be part of your Linux. Linux init process will be started. The moment your Linux server reboots, automatically Linux server starts. Along with that, your OHSD process will be get started. This OHSD will be part of your Linux init daemon. So that will be tagged with your Linux server. So because of that, the restart capability comes into picture here. Right, so that's the meaning of your the restart. Like if I can check it now, your ASM is back online, your database is back online. Even if you reboot your lab 1 and lab 2, the moment you reboot your lab 1, your DB will be down. It will never come back online. I need to manually connect to my database and start it manually. Right. So I need to start that database manually because this is running under file system. Whereas under lab 2, I no need to do it. Everything will be handled by my ASM and OHST. And your OHST will be part of your Linux init daemon. You can check using systemctl status OHSD. So that is your active, which is part of your OS daemon. Your server reboots, automatically your OHSD will be started. That OHSD internally starts your ASM. That ASM internally starts your database. Right, so that's the two types of databases, what you can see in case of a single node, a single server. And for the RAC, we have another two types of databases. RAC,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What happens if we manually, purposely, if I want to shut down the restart Oracle.
That is, you're
Restart.
telling ASM, I am boss, I'm gonna shut down my database, don't start it. If you manually stop your database, ASM will never start it, because that command indicates internally, boss, I am starting it for some maintenance, don't start it.
Okay. Okay. And any particular reason why they have for which type of applications can we use this?
Any type, doesn't matter. You can use it any type. Right, so that is only the difference is your storage. Always Oracle recommends to use ASM as a storage, not the file system. It's a old legacy. Never ever use your local file system. That's a legacy. And always any interaction your database has to do, it has to do with the OS file system. Always Oracle strong recommendation is to use your ASM as a storage. You have a lot of advantages, a lot of features, a lot of benefits, and anything database is residing under ASM, your reading and writing any data from your disk group will be much more faster. Always use ASM as a storage. Right. Again, going further, these are the. Mhm.
If we have killed ASM and test DB, so in Oracle restart, which process is used to start that ASM and test DB?
OHSD.
OHSD. Okay. If I kill the database after starting the database, so the OHSD will start the database, or
No, ASM will start the database. That's what
okay.
I draw, that OHSD, ASM, and then database.
Okay, what's the background process that's used for?
OHSD. There's a OS daemon that depending upon ASM, and ASM will gonna start your database. There's a ASM MB database background process, which is responsible for starting that.
Okay, that OHSD. Okay.
And you can do PS-EF grep OHSD. There's a OHSD daemon will be started on your Linux server.
Okay, got it.
Right. That is to a single instance. So what we talked is lab 1, lab 2, and where we have Oracle Home, we installed Oracle software. Let's say I can make it 16 here. Oracle Home, on top of that, DevDB database is running here. This is my Oracle lab 1. Right, Oracle lab 1, Oracle Home, we install the software and then we created DevDB. And then this Oracle lab 2. And this Oracle lab 2, we installed first. Again, this is the assumption, GI Home. We installed GI Home, will be running plus ASM there. And we installed Oracle Home. And on top of that Oracle Home, we created TestDB. This is the setup. On lab 2, we have a GI Home and we have Oracle Home. And on lab 1, we have only Oracle Home. That's a known thing here. If I go to lab 1, so my DevDB, this is my Oracle Home, where my database is installed over there. These are my lab 1. Lab 1 will be running with that only Oracle software. But on lab 2, we have Oracle as well as we have ASM. This is my ASM home here, grid home. That's the first software we installed on this lab 2, and followed by we installed a database software. Right, so these are the two software we installed, Oracle Grid Home and installed ASM instance, and Oracle Home we installed database instance on top of that. So, and then other two types of database are RAC database and RAC one node. RAC database is like, for example, I have node 1 and I have node 2. On node 1 and node 2, that's a two node rack. I'm talking about just example of two node rack. So here plus ASM1 will be running, and here plus ASM2 will be running. And on top of that ASM1, you'll be running your DB1 instance, and you will be running your DB2 instance. 2 database instance will be running here. And in the rack, one node will be something like this. You'll be having node 1 and node 2. You'll be having plus ASM1 will be running here, plus ASM2 will be running here. And your naming convention will be quite different here. It will be like this. DB_1 and DB_2. And rack1 node, it's a cluster setup with only one instance will be running at given time. And then in the RAC database, it's a cluster setup and multiple instances. Multiple instances will be running at any given point of time. So if I go to my RAC setup here, I have node 1 here. So I have installed multiple database here. This is a node 1 and where my ASM1 is running. And I have this node 2 and I can see multiple databases running here. So if I just take only one database, let's say my Prod or CDB1 or anything, let's take with the CDB1. My Oracle home, I'll set it. Right. Once you set up your ANV, you can validate using ANV grep Ora, your Oracle SID, Oracle base, Oracle home. So now I do something called srvctl config database -d and your database name. That will be CDB1. CDB is the database name. That's 1 and 2, your instance name. And now I'm going to do status. So if I copy this command output into here, RAC database. So if you see, I have CDB as a database and I have CDB1 and CDB instance 2 instance running under node 1 and node 2. It's a 2-node rack and running under 2 nodes. And both the instances are up and running here. Is running and running. CDB instance 1 and instance 2 both are running. And then if I do config, srvctl config database -d, your database name, and it says type of the database is RAC. The config command will give me type of the database is RAC database. Right. That's fair enough. So I have one more database here. That's a special database. And if you can see rack one node underscore n, this is the name of the database I given. So if I set the environment for that, right. And if I do same command, srvctl status database, and my database name is rack1n. This is the output here. For rack1 node, it says rack1n_1 is running on node 1. Online relocation is inactive. It means if this particular server goes down, automatically will not fail over to the node 2. You have to make it enable, make it active. Then only if the node 1 goes down, automatically second node instance will get started. It is saying only one instance is running. But if I do config database for the same srvctl config database, config means I'm going to check for the configuration. Check for the same database, it says type is rack1 node. So rack1 node. So it means rack1 node is a special database where only one instance will be running at any given point of time. And if that node goes down, automatically second instance will be started. And the quiet naming convention will start with _1 and _2. Whereas RAC database, you're going to start with 1 and 2 at the end of the database name. CDB is the database name here and will be prefixed with this 1 and 2. Whereas rack1 node, rack1n is the name of the database, will be ending with prefix something _1 and _2. You can change it, but that's a standard naming convention.
Malik,
Right.
I'm having one question here. I can understand if we have multiple instance for the load balancing and that is the high availability in the rack. But what is the use if it is a one node rack? If the only one instance has to be done, then what is the use of the two nodes?
Again, it's a part of the course. I'm going to explain why there's a specific need. You have 4-node
Oh.
rack. I want to run my 1 and 2 for UAT. I want to run my development database on node 3. So in that case, you can go with the rack 1 node. It'll start always on 3rd node. So it never interfere with your node 1 and 2. Node 1 and 2, I'm using it specifically for my UAT or the test database. And development database, I'll start it on node 3. So that's one of the use case. Right.
But there will be another node. We need to configure it, right, Mili? Is that
Right.
what you're?
Right.
Is it like only for any of the failover part or something like that?
Right now, let's say in simple example, rack 1 node, I have 4 node, and these 2 node dedicatedly, I kept it for my UAT testing. I don't want any other database to run. And I want to run my dev or test under only these 2 nodes. So I can configure test here and dev here as a rack 1 node. So that primarily it will start over here and it will never start, it never use any resource from UAT. So just to differentiate your resource utilization, you can start it as a rack 1 node on either node 3 or node 4. And also at the same time, you'll be getting high availability feature. In case of this server itself will go down, only on that case, you can fail over the database. Otherwise, it will never fail over. It will be running always here. So we'll be able to get the 2 benefits here. The HA failover in case of server goes down, automatically it's going to fail over to any one of the node. And if server is up and running, it will never interfere with that UAT load. UAT will be running on node 1 and 2, and your database will be running only on that dedicated node. Right. So what we did here, rack and rack 1 node. So how the setup look like? So we have here same process, GI home here. We have GI home, and on GI home plus ASM1. So just assume here it will be ASM, here it will be ASM1. And I have this CDB instance 1. And before that, sorry, GI home is running here. And on top of GI home plus ASM1 will be running here. And we have Oracle home. And that Oracle home we are running CDB1 instance. Same thing for node 2. Here instance 2 will be running, or your ASM2 will be running here, or CDB instance 2 will be running here. So the difference between here and here, it will be just a plus ASM because there's no 1, 2, 3 numbers here because it's only one Oracle restart single node server. Here it's a 2-node rack server. That's why you'll be getting 1 and 2 instance. If you add a 3rd node, you'll get the 3rd node, 3rd instance. And this is your node 1. And this is your node 2.
This is the normal rack instance setup, right?
Normal.
This is the 3rd one. What you had written is the normal.
Come again.
This is the 3rd one which we wrote is.
Sorry, I lost your
rack
voice. Give me a second. What's the question?
3rd one is the normal rack instance, 2-node rack instance setup, right? Are you able to hear me?
There may be, I can't hear your voice. Can you guys hear my voice?
Yeah, we can hear his voice also and your voice
Maybe
also.
some audio. If you give me a second here.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we are able to hear you.
Okay, yeah,
I
sorry.
don't.
Yeah, there's a typo. There's a the mute button was enabled here. Okay. This is a 2-node rack. In case of this 2 types of database, what I'm tracking, type number 3 and type number 4, it's a rack is must. Your cluster setup is must. So that's what I'm talking about. 2-node rack here, and your ASM1 and ASM2 will be running from the grid home. Grid home is a software you need to install first. and your Oracle home is your instance 1 and instance 2 will be running over here. Same thing for your rack 1 node here, your ASM home or the GI home, you can call it as whatever the convenient name. ASM home, where you are running plus ASM1, followed by you have Oracle home, and you are running only one instance at a given time here. Rack 1 node, instance 1, and rack 1 node, instance 2. Any one instance will be running. So here it will be F2, sorry. It will be your instance 2, and it will be your instance 2 here. Any one instance will be running at any given time. So this is your rack database, and this is your
What is the mean for the given time that one instance will be running?
means at any time, at this point of time, either 1 or 2 will be running.
Only
Not
one will be active. The other will be shut down, right?
right. Right. So that's a type of
So
database.
in rack 1 node, what's the configuration difference between rack and rack 1 node?
Type of database. SRCTL config rack 1 node. SRCTL config, it'll be your rack. That's the only difference. Right.
Okay.
Now let's understand the.
Is it the parameter difference anywhere we need to?
No, only the type. Only the
while
type.
giving the database creation, we need to give it as type.
Yep.
Is it what you say?
Yeah.
In DBC.
Yes, that's correct. Right. That's the only difference. Rack 1 node, rack database, all the parameters are pretty much same, no changes at all. Only during the installation, what type of database you're going to select, rack database or rack 1 node. That will be reflected on your SRCTL config. Type of database is rack 1 node and type of database is rack. This is the one which is going to make difference because your configured node is node 1 and 2, instance 1 and 2, again rack database, but type is rack. And again, your configuration node is node 1 and 2, and currently database active is second instance. And once that is goes down, automatically node 1 will come down. So you have to do a proper configuration in order to do this rack 1 node. So even though it's a 2 node, but you'll not be able to start it on both nodes. So once your node 1 goes down, automatically node 2 will start. Node 2 will go down, automatically node 1 will start. So that's the only difference. Type of database is a rack 1 node or the rack database. That makes a difference. Otherwise, all the parameters remain same. Right. The file system structure. The file system structure we already understood for my rack database or standalone database. Again, when you are talking about the file system structure difference between standalone versus rack. So standalone versus rack. So you should understand standalone means which standalone, whether it's a standalone with ASM or standalone without ASM. So you need to understand that. And rack is any one of these, either a 2 node rack setup or rack 1 node, it's rack database. So let's say I have 2 node here. I'll just take a new, don't save it. Okay, let's say I have 2 node rack here. I want to understand my file systems. So we already talked like, these are my disk groups here and different disks together. I made multiple disk groups here. Let's say I have made, assuming that I have made 2 disk groups, data and reco. I'll say this is my data disk group. And this is my record or else plus data. And this is my plus reco. I have my data and reco disk group. And we already just discussed, we installed GI home here, where my plus ASM1 will be running, and I have my Oracle home and my CDB instance 1 will be running. Same thing, my ASM instance 2 and my CDB instance 2 will be running here. So that's the current setup here for my rack. So let's talk about the something called CID files. So control, read and data, that's the CID file systems. We call it as a short word CID file system. Control, read and data, but along with that archive, password file, SP file, there will be so many files. So let's say I want to talk about very first thing, my very first thing, a P file or SP file. Where is my P file and SP file for my RAC database? I'm talking about a database called CDB database. CDB is my database. I'm talking about a P file or the SP file. So P file, you might be already aware that as part of basic architecture, P file will be always available under my Oracle home DBS location. So if I go to my node 1 and if I go to my Oracle home for my CDB database and DBS is a location, this is my 12C Oracle home. Under DBS location, I'll be having my init and cdb1.vara. So that is my P file on node 1. On node 2, again, I need to go to that node 2. I'll be having init cdb2. That's an instance name. Remember, init followed by your instance name, instance 1 and 2. This is on node 1. Node 1, you can see your init 1, and node 2, you can see your init 2. That's a P file if you're maintaining the P file. Ideally, we should not maintain any P file for my RAC database. We should always maintain SP file. So if you want to maintain a P file, create a P file, point to SP file on node 1. Create a P file on node 2, point to SP file. Always you should maintain a SP file which is under a disk group. So let's say here srctl config for this RAC database, srctl config database -d cdb. I am keeping my SP file under this particular disk group, data disk group. So always you should keep a SP file for your RAC database, not the P file. If at all you want to keep your P file on node 1 and P file on node 2, it will be init, your instance name, cdb1.vara, init, cdb2.vara, and node 1 and node 2. And these two files should point to your SP file. Something like you can type, I can say.
It would be a different one for each node, or it's for
Right.
both the nodes it is the same?
Which one, P file or SP file?
I'm asking, are you able to hear me?
Yeah. No, P file or SP file you're talking about?
Yeah, P file, it is in one node and the second node also.
That's what I draw here, right?
Yeah,
It should be init 1 and init 2.
I'm asking about the SP file. It should be in ASM, and that should be different one for each node.
I'm talking about that. Init cdb1.vara. Inside that, you just mention SP file, and you can give that SP file location, whatever the SP file you have it, kept it under a disk group. Right, that's your P file. If you want to mention a P file on node 1, you can just go with this one. And if you want to mention a P file on node 2, you can just go to the node 2. And then it should be your instance 2, but that also pointing to your SP file, which is under common shared disk group. But ideally, you should not maintain any P file locally. If you just have this SP file and configure it with your srctl, no need to maintain your local P file. If you want to maintain it, but it has to point to that SP file. Right, that's a common understanding between the P file and SP file in case of RAC. What else next? After SP file, next comes your data files, and next comes your control files, or data files, or the control files or data files, and data files. Let's talk about control files. So if somebody asked,
in RAC database, is the SP file or the P file? If the P file shared between both the nodes? No. As we already saw, node 1 has its own P file, node 2 has its own P file. P file is not shared. Each node 1 has its own P file. It's my node 1 and it's my node 2. Both the node 1 and node 2 has its own independent P file. What about SP file? If somebody asked, is SP file shared in your rack? Yes, SP file is shared, which is available under my disk group, which will be accessible for my both a P file, SP file for node 1 and node 2. It's only one file shared between both the nodes, where P file is independent of that particular node. One P file for node 1, one more P file for node 2. P file are not shared. Next, control file. Is your control file shared? My instance 1 can access control file, and my instance 2 can access control file. Yes, its control files are always shared between both the instances. If I can go to node 1, CDB1, where is my Oracle home? SQL plus /s sysdba. I connected to node 1. If I do select name from VDollar control file on node 1, I can see data, reco, control 1 and control 2, two control files, which is shared for both instances. At the same time, if I can go to second node, .env cdb2 and my Oracle home, SQL plus /s sysdba. If I run the same control file command on the node 2, again, control file is shared. So in simple words, control files will be under your data and record group multiplexing. It is shared. Your control files are shared, your SP files are shared, and your P files are non-shared. P file 1 and P file 2, both are non-shared. Both are independent of that particular node. And your SP file and control file are shared. Both the instance 1 can access the same control file, and both the instance 2 also can access the same control file. It's a shared location, shared control file. Data files. In the data files, we have many things. System, sysocs, and users are application related, and we have undo and we have redo. So system, all of these three, whatever you're seeing, system, sysocs, any user related data files and apps related data files are all shared. Shared means both the node 1 and node 2 instance can access this set of data files. So these are like shared between both the instances. Let's go to node 1.
Just a question here, Malik. What is the use of sysoc? I know that system and sysoc data file is specifically for. Just I'm asking, sysoc is system is used for the internal.
System is for your internal metadata. Sysoc is for your repository. Your AWS or OEM or related repo will be stored under that. Your snapshots. Your data files, system, sysocs, and if you observe, you have your undo TBS1, and if I can go here, undo TBS2, two undo data files. You have system only one, sysocs only one, and you have your users one. But how come your undo TBS1 and undo TBS2, two undo data files? And if I run the same command from the node 2, and the same thing, system, sysocs, and you have undo and users and undo 2. Why you have undo TBS1 and undo TBS2, two undo data files? So let's undo. Let's say non-shared. So your node 1 has its own undo and node 2 has its own undo. So node 1, any transactions are going to happen, all the undo is going to write it to that particular undo data file. And if any user connected to node 2 is doing some transactions, all the undo information will be written to your undo. So one of the common questions is, my undo is common between both the nodes? No, your undo data files are independent of that nodes. Node 1 has its own undo data file, node 2 has its own undo data file, right? And the redo, same thing goes for your redo. Non-shared. Non-shared in the sense, you have node 1, it has own set of redo logs. Node 2 has its own set of redo logs. Any users connected to node 1 is going to make use of that redo of that node 1 and undo of that particular node. And any user connected to node 2 is going to make use of redo of that node and undo of that. That itself indicates any transaction connected to that node involves both redo and undo, and any transaction connected to node 2 involves both redo and undo. Because of that fact, to handle that transactions, your redo and undo are independent of that particular node. They are not commonly said, means not commonly said in the sense they cannot write each other. Node 1 can write it only on node 1 redo and undo. Node 2 can write it only on node 2 redo logs and undo. There's no cross concept here. But whereas your system and sysocs, you have system, sysocs, and users application. Your instance can also write on the same. Your instance 2 can also write on the same data files. But your redo and undo are separate for node specific.
Any specific reason it is not shared?
I just explained, right? Each transactions, whatever the user connected to node 1, he needs its own set of redo logs and its own set of undo. Each user connected to node 2, he needs its own set of his redo logs. All the transaction will go there, and respective undo will be stored under that particular.
Is temp also shared?
Temp, you can have only one. No need to have a specific to node. Temp, you can have only one shared.
Okay.
Right. So that is your file system structure, the comparison between standalone versus rack. And again, these are the common questions in the interview. Is my undo is common across both the nodes? No. Is my redo common across my both the nodes? No. And if you can go with the temp, let's put that temp as well. Temp is shared. You can have your shared temp. The temp can be accessed by your both the nodes. Or you can have a separate one. But undo and redo are the two major things which will be always separate across the nodes, across your cluster nodes. Great. That's one thing. Redo logs, you can get it, select name from, or you can do with the VDLR log file. Describe VDLR log file. So I can list out, not VDLR log file, describe VDLR log. VDLR log will gonna give you what is your instance specific. Select, I want to check for my group, comma, thread 1 from our members, you can check it out from VDLR log. So we have group, redo log group. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 redo log groups, and each redo log group has one member. And then group 1 and 2 belongs to my thread 1, that's a instance 1. And group 3 and 4 belongs to my instance 2. Node 1, this is my node 1, has 2 redo log groups, and my node 2 has a 2 redo log groups, and each of this group has only one member each. So for that, I can select group number, comma, member from VDLR log file, which is going to give me all the 4 redo log files. Out of that 4, 2 redo logs are belongs to node 1 and 2 redo logs are belong to node 2. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 redo logs, and here you can see your group number 1 and group number 2. your 1 and 2, redo log 1 and 2 belongs to node 1, and group number 3 and 4 belongs to your node 2. This is your group number 3 and group number 4. Redo log 3 and 4 belongs to your second node. So these are like independent to that particular node. They are not shared for both the instances. Right. And then these are your SP file, P file, control file, data files. In the data files, you have system, sysocs, undo, users, apps, and redo and temps. And we have something called password file. Password file is again shared. So this password file will be again, you can get it from srctl config database command. srctl config database, CDB database. I'm looking that CDB database has SP file and has a password file. So this password file is again on the data disk group, which is shared. This password will be shared across your instance 1 and instance 2. Your instance can also use the same password file, and your instance 2 also uses the same password file, which is under your data disk group. Right. So this is your data CDB password and your password file name. If you want to have your individual password file in the disk group here, in the independent nodes here, you have to go to that particular node under this Oracle home. So node 1, I'll go into this DBS directory /DBS, and I need to create my node 1 password file. That will be Vara pw cdb instance 1 and your cdb instance 2. You have to copy this password file from the disk group to node 1 and node 2, and you have to specify your instance name, cdb instance 1, cdb instance 2. How you are going to maintain a P file across two nodes, you have to copy the same password file on node 1 and node 2. You have something called pw copy from ASM disk group. You can copy it to the locally. You have to go inside DBS location, Vara pw cdb instance 1, Vara pw cdb instance 2. On node 1 and node 2, you have to keep two password file if you want to maintain individually on that node. But that is not recommended or the best practice. You should have your password file in the disk group, which will be default shared across both instances. If somebody asked, is my password file shared in the RAC database? Answer is yes. My password file is always shared in case of my RAC database. But you have an option to copy that password file, keep separately on node 1 and node 2 with the instance specific, instance 1 and instance 2. But it's all referring to the same sys password. Right. And then these are your common ask questions: SP file, P file, password file, control file, redo log files, undo data and all. What about your alert? My alert log, my trace files, my TRM files, my redo logs. What happened to these files? These all name itself suggests these are not redo logs, audit files. These are like node specific. Node 1 has its own set of logs and node 2 has its own set of logs. These are like your instance specific. So your alert log and your trace files, your TRM files, audit files, these are like instance specific, and these are available on file system only. You cannot keep them under ASM. These are available only on that particular file system. Node 1, node 2 has its own set of alert log, trace file, TRM file, audit files on that particular node. So if I can go to node 1, U01 app, Oracle diag. Under diag location, you can see everything. Diag, RDBMS, and CDB instance 1, CDB instance 1, trace. So here, if I do alert, my node 1 specific alert under node 1, alert underscore instance 1.log, and followed by all the trace and TRM files, all the background specific trace and TRM files. You can see all the TRM trace files and alert log, cdump, codump, and audit files and all. So same thing for node 2 as well. U01 app Oracle diag RDBMS CDB instance 2 and trace LL alert. So that is my alert instance 2 log. And again, same thing for all the trace file, TRM file, core file, and the dump files. All those you can see it over here on the node specific. And the audit file also on that particular node specific, but under local file system, not on the ASM disk group. Right, so we already crossed 20 minutes. Let's stop it now. If anyone has any questions, we can take it and then we'll stop it for now and then we'll continue tomorrow with the further topics. Right.
Malik, is there any specific benefit of keeping password files in different nodes? Say suppose there are 2 nodes, keeping 2 nodes.
No.
It's one and the same, keeping it in one single location.
It should be always on SAID under ASM.
It is.
It is used for the communication or data transfer, right?
Again, that's the basics you should understand. What's the use of password file? The password file is for remote connections for your sysdba. If your sysdba want to connect, that's the basics. You should be aware of that. Any database, any DBA want to connect to your database remotely to do any admin activities or maintenance activities, your password file is mandatory. And your password, that's the one primary use case. And what's the other use case of your password file? You have primary and standby. In order to sync your standby, you should have a primary password file copied to your standby. These are the 2 use cases of your password file. Right. Any questions so far on the course curriculum or timings or the topics or the whatever the 2-3 topics what we covered for this demo?
Your timing was 8 AM to 12. Now it is changed, right? 7 AM to 11.
7 to 8, 7 to 11.
That is also fine.
All right. Yeah, good.
Undo and redo are non-shareable, right?
Right.
So node 1, node 2. So in
Right.
case of node 1 goes down, then we lost the data for the node 1.
We have something called instance recovery and crash recovery. What is instance recovery and crash recovery? So crash recovery, we call it as a standalone single node server. If instance goes down, abnormally shut down, when you start it, your SMON will take care of doing the recovery. That is called your crash recovery. What is instance recovery? In case of RAC, we call it as the same crash recovery with instance recovery. Why? Because node 1 crashed, your node 2 is gonna read that redo log files. It's gonna read that undo data files belongs to that other node, and it's gonna do a data consistency. That's your crash recovery. Why your node 2 is gonna able to read that? Because your node 1 undo and redo available under a SAID ASM disk group, your node 2 can able to access in case of only crash recovery happens, not during any transactions. Any transactions, those 2 undo and redo are independent. Node 1 will never access node 2, node 2 will never access node 1.
Oh, thank you.
Malika, I have 2 questions. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. For ASM, right, we are unable to see the extension of the data file, right? Usually the extension is a .dbf, right? Why we are unable to see this extension?
We have 2 concepts here. Again, this is the basics of database. You should be aware of this one. We have something called OMF, Oracle Managed Files, and non-OMF. If your database you created as a OMF, automatically your database, your ASM is gonna give that naming convention, your control dot, your number dot, your DBID. So ASM will provide that naming convention if your database is OMF, Oracle Managed Files. While creation of database, there's an option, disable that OMF. When you disable that OMF, you are going to define your naming convention, .dbf, .ctl, .log. That's a answer to the question.
Okay, if we want to extend or add the table space, right? Add the data file, right? So how we can provide the naming convention?
Again, it is left to you whether you want to go with the OMF or non-OMF. If you are going with a non-OMF, just give plus data. You don't need to give anything. Automatically ASM will take care of that.
Okay.
If you want to go with the non-OMF, plus data plus devdb and data1.dbf, you can give complete name. That's a non-OMF.
Okay, another question is for ASM, right? You kill the ASM and the instant, right? So it automatically bring up, right? What about the listener? It also bring up?
Right.
Right. Oh, okay.
Again, there is a flaw over there where your instances, where your listeners are running. Each your listeners are registered with your clusterware.
Okay, yeah.
If registered, automatically your listeners will be brought online. If your listeners are not registered in the clusterware, manually you have to start it.
Thank you.
All right, let's stop it now. Let's continue tomorrow with the further topic. We'll talk about architecture and networking and this clusterware startup sequence, how the dependencies and all in tomorrow's class. Thank you.
Hey Malik, can I call you like after this call? After this?
Yeah, we'll ping you in WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Thanks,
Thank
Malik.
you all. Yeah, thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mani. Thank you for giving the demo.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.